In the last episode, mapping the whole target was the mission. This episode, we go deep on the single most important step, finding subdomains. Every subdomain is a separate application on a separate server with its own bugs and its own developers who may have forgotten it exists. The hunter who finds 200 subdomains has 200 targets. The one who finds 2000 has a private hunting ground nobody else is even looking at. So our goal is simple and total, find every single subdomain a target has. Let's go get all of them. Why? So this sticks. When a company says its scope is star.target.com, they're inviting you to test every subdomain they own. Most people find the obvious ones and stop. But the gold is in the forgotten ones: dev, staging, old, internal, test, backup. Those are the servers, built fast, secured, never, and abandoned. Finding them is the difference between competing with 1,000 hackers on the main app and having a fragile, unwatched server all to yourself. There are three families of subdomain enumeration, and you want all three. 1. Passive sources, harvesting subdomain names that other people and services have already recorded without touching the target. 2. Active brute force, guessing subdomain names from a word list and checking which ones exist. And 3. Permutations, taking the names you already found and generating clever variations of them. Passive gets you most of the way. Brute force and permutations find the ones nobody else does. Let's take them in order. We start passive, always, because it's free, fast, and completely silent. The idea is that every subdomain a company has ever exposed leaves footprints all over the internet, in certificate logs, in DNS databases, in search engines, in security scanners. Passive enumeration just collects those footprints from dozens of third-party sources and merges them into one list. You get hundreds of subdomains before you send the target a single request. The first and best passive source we met last episode, certificate transparency. Every HTTPS certificate a company issues is logged publicly and lists the domains it covers. Search a site like crt.sh for your target and you get a flood of subdomains for free. But here's the pro move, don't just read it in the browser. You can query cert.sh as a data source and pull thousands of names straight into your list. Certificate logs alone will often hand you the majority of a target subdomains before you touch any other tool. Certificate logs are one source. There are dozens more, and each knows subdomains the others don't. Passive DNS databases record every domain that's ever resolved. Search engines have indexed pages on subdomains you'd never guess. And threat intelligence platforms like SecurityTrails, VirusTotal, Shodan, and Censys have massive historical databases you can query, most with a free API key. Tools like AssetFinder pull from a bunch of these at once. The lesson: no single source is complete, so the real skill is combining many of them. You are not going to query 30 sources by hand. That's what Subfinder is for. Subfinder is the industry standard passive aggregator. It queries dozens of sources in parallel and hands you a clean, deduplicated list in seconds. One command, subfinder-d target.com. But here's the upgrade most beginners miss. Subfinder gets dramatically more powerful when you add free API keys for those threat intel sources into its config. Without keys, you get the public sources. With keys, you unlock the big historical databases and your results can double. The other heavyweight is amass from the OWASP project. Amass does passive collection like Subfinder, but it goes further. It can also do active resolution and map the relationships between a target's assets. It's slower and more thorough, so many hunters run Subfinder for speed and amass for depth, then merge the two lists. Amass also has an intel mode that helps with the horizontal recon we talked about, finding root domains a company owns. Two tools, more coverage, fewer blind spots. Passive will get you a big list, but it can only find subdomains that already left a footprint somewhere. What about a brand new dev server or an internal name nobody has ever linked to? Those are invisible to passive. That's where active brute force comes in. The concept is simple. Take a word list of common subdomain names, dev, mail, VPN, admin, API, and thousands more, and test each one against the target's DNS to see if it actually exists. Here's how it works in practice. You don't test names one at a time, that would take days. Instead, a tool like puredns, powered by massdns underneath, blasts through a massive word list against a pool of DNS resolvers, testing tens of thousands of names per second. You feed it your word list and the target domain, and it returns only the names that actually resolve to a real server. In minutes, you've discovered subdomains that appear in no certificate log, no database, nowhere, because they were never public until you guessed them. Brute force is only as good as your word list. This is the part beginners get wrong. A tiny word list misses things. A giant random one wastes hours. The best hunters use curated subdomain word lists built from real-world data, like the ones from AssetNote or the DNS lists in SecLists. These are ranked by how often each name actually appears in the wild, so the most likely subdomains get tested first. Good word list, good results, invest in a great one. Now the trick that separates pros from everyone else, permutations, also called alterations. You found a subdomain called api.target.com. It's very likely the company also has api-dev, api-staging, api2 or dev-api. A permutation tool like gotator or dnsgen takes every subdomain you've already found and generates thousands of realistic variations, adding words, numbers, environments, and dashes. Then you resolve that new list. Permutations regularly uncover live servers that no word list and no passive source ever would. One more multiplier, recursive enumeration. Sometimes a subdomain has its own subdomains. You find dev.target.com, but there's also ap.dev.target.com hiding under it. So you take the interesting subdomains you discovered and run the whole process again, treating each one as a new root. Deeper layers are less trafficked, and less trafficked almost always means less secured. Most hunters never go recursive, which is exactly why it pays. Here's a sneaky one, virtual hosts or vhosts. Sometimes a single server hosts many different sites, and which one you get depends on the host header you send, not just the address. So a subdomain might not resolve in DNS at all, yet still be reachable if you know its name and send the right host header. You find these by brute forcing the host header against a known IP with a tool like FFUF and the -H flag. Vhost discovery uncovers hidden internal apps that pure DNS enumeration completely misses. Don't forget the human sources. Developers constantly leak subdomain names in their code. Search GitHub for your target's domain and you'll find internal host names hard-coded in config files, scripts, and documentation. Even better, once you find live sites, their JavaScript files are full of API endpoints and subdomain references just sitting in the source. Tools can crawl and extract these automatically. Code is written by people in a hurry, and people in a hurry leak the exact names you're hunting for. After all this, passive, brute force, permutations, recursion, vhosts, you won't have a few subdomains. You will have thousands of candidate names, and many are duplicates or dead. The next step is to resolve them, figure out which actually point to a live server, and then probe those for running websites. That resolution stage, using tools like DNSX and massdns, is a whole craft of its own, and it's exactly what the next episode is about. For now, just know, enumeration produces candidates, resolution confirms them. Let's tie the enumeration side into one flow. Run subfinder and asset finder for passive. Add your brute force results from puredns. Add your permutation results from gotator. Then merge everything and remove duplicates, a tool called unew, or just sort-u does this. What comes out is a single, clean master list of every candidate subdomain from every technique. That one file is the foundation of your entire hunt, and it's the input to everything you'll do next. And like all Recon, subdomain enumeration is not one and done. Companies spin up new subdomains constantly, a new marketing site, a new dev box, a new API. Each new subdomain is fresh, untested attack surface, and for a short window, you might be the only person who knows it exists. So automate this whole pipeline, run it on a schedule, and diff the output. When a new name appears, you get an alert and you're first in line. New subdomains are where fast hunters make fast money. Quick mistakes to dodge. 1. Running subfinder without API keys, you're leaving half your results on the table, add the free keys. 2. Brute forcing with bad or public DNS resolvers, you'll get false results and get rate limited, use a clean resolver list. 3. Ignoring wildcard DNS, some domains resolve every possible name to the same place, which fakes thousands of subdomains, you have to detect and filter it. And 4. Stopping after passive. Passive is the start, not the finish. The unique finds are in brute force and permutations. Recap, like 3 families, passive sources, active brute force, and permutations, use all 3. Passive, certificate logs, and threat intel, APIs, aggregated by subfinder and amass. Brute force, a great word list and a fast resolver via puredns. Permutations, variations of what you found with gotator, then recursion, vhosts, and GitHub for the rest. Merge into one clean list. Automate and monitor it. Find every last subdomain. Cleanshot this, but you now know how to generate a massive list of candidate subdomains. Next episode, we turn that raw list into gold, DNS enumeration and resolution, using DNSX and massdns to find which names are actually live, fast, and at scale without wildcards fooling you. That's where your huge list becomes a real target list. Subscribe so you don't miss it, and tell me how many subdomains did your first scan find. See you in the next one.